Hello, folks. Dustin Zarni here, Democratic Elections Commissioner for Onondaga County. We are getting into the July 4th weekend. And today's July 3rd. And I waited till today, Thursday, to do the commissioner car. I normally do on Monday because, well, I wanted to find out what races were going to go to hand counts for the primary that we just found out just this week. And I was going to do this commissioner car yesterday, but I didn't want to step on my good friend Mark Spatafor's president on a porch, although he's not on a porch anymore. He's saying news from the Labor Hall, which is a great podcast. Check that out with the Greater Syracuse Labor Council. But in the meantime, let's talk about what I wanted to talk about today. And that is the primary and where we stand. So you may remember that on election night on Tuesday, on the 24th, now 12 days ago or so, 9 days ago, something like that. Yeah, 9 days ago. We had a couple of races that were pretty close, too close to call. Now, most of the races were, well, they weren't that close. The mayoral race and all of the Democratic races, they weren't that close. We had a opportunity ballot race out in Salina's 2nd Ward that had a lot of write-ins in it, but we didn't know whether that was going to be close or not because we couldn't tell who the write-ins were. We did that count last week, and Lisa Paul is on the ballot for that. She has well over 50, of the 70 votes. I think it's actually up to over 60 of the 70 votes now that were written in. She'll be on the ballot for the Democrat in Salina's 2nd Ward. And none of the other races, County Ledge 8, City of Syracuse Mayor, Common Councilor at Large, or School Board fell within the possibility of a hand count. But there were two races on election night that were within the hand count. Well, there were four races actually within the possibility. The one was the Salina's 2nd Ward. The other one was Cicero Town Council. But the last run of absentees and vote by mails that came in on this Tuesday pulled that out of the hand count. But two races have now remained within the hand count and will proceed to hand counts next week. Those two races are, if you go to onvote.net, you can see these two. These are the unofficial results on our results caster here. I got my little handy tablet that's helping me remember people's names because it's been a long 20 or so days. We have in the Town of Pompey Republican race it's a vote for two, and there were 3 people running. There is a hand count because the margin between the 2nd place person, Ronald Young, and the 3rd place person, Thomas Henry, is only 8 votes. So it's pretty close. I think I thought it was 4, but I think I did the math wrong. So it's 8. It's 8 votes, at least on. Hold on. No. I'm sorry. Yes. No, it's 8 votes. So sorry, my tablet restarted on me. So that is 8 votes. An interesting thing on that is that that race actually flipped from election night with the final vote by mails, as most of the vote by mails went to Ronald Young, where Tom Henry was up on election night. Then there is another race for the conservative line for supervisor of the town of Elbridge. Douglas Bloomer, who was, you may remember, lost his Republican primary for the supervisor of Elbridge. For the supervisor of Elbridge on the conservative line, he is also down by 4 votes from Matthew Martin. So both of those races are within 20 votes, and thus automatically going to a hand count. We scheduled a hand count for the Conservative race on Monday. The reason we were able to do that is because there was no early votes cast in that election. Only one vote by mail, and the rest were on election day, so it was easy to locate all those ballots, and we knew that we could be ready for that on Monday. And we notified the candidates, and on today we've notified the candidates for the town council race for Pompey, that for the Republican, that will be doing their hand count on Friday of next week, because again we're going through all the early votes to get the ballots on that. This, instead of 19 ballots, that's looking at about about 300 ballots, so it's a little bit more complicated. We want to make sure that when we do these hand counts, we are ready to go, that that everybody comes out of there satisfied that the race is the margin that we said it is. So that's what we got going on now. But we are certifying the election on Monday. And then if the hand count changes the results, we will amend our certification, because Monday is the last day to certify. And as per the election law regulations with the state board, it is recommended that you certify, then do the hand count, and then amend your certification. So we are doing that. And, again, this last Tuesday was the last day for vote by mail ballots to even come in. Theoretically, some cures could have happened that went beyond the deadline, but we didn't have that in Onondaga County. So all ballots that are going to be received that are timely are here. All ballots are canvassed and part of the unofficial results that are up at onvote.net. So we go into the holiday weekend, and you're rested. We'll be ready for these two hand counts and certifying the election and moving on to the general election. I next week will actually be in Boston on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, because if you may remember, I'm one of New York's representatives to the U.S. Elections Assistance Commission. That is like instead of the state board, it's the national board. It's that deals with elections and commissioners. I'm on what's called the Local Leadership Council. I'm one of two representatives there, and they're having a regional meeting for our northeast section of the state, or the country. We had our annual meeting earlier this year, which I went down to, and now we're having our regional meeting. And the regional meetings are, this is my first regional meeting. This is a very kind of new thing, this Local Leadership Council. There's also what's called a standards board, which also has two representatives from each state. So there's about 6 or 7, maybe 8, 9 states that are in our region. And so we're all getting together, and there is also a data summit. That's why the EAC is holding this meeting. There's a data summit in Boston that the Eves survey and a lot of other data that was collected is going to be presented. I'm very excited. Those of you who know me and know I love data, and if you watch this podcast, you know I love data. So I'll be interested in that. I'm going to be part of the data summit on Wednesday. Flying out there on Tuesday. We're going to be part of the data summit on Wednesday, and the regional meeting on Thursday, and then flying home Thursday night so I can be back for the hand counts on Friday. So yeah, we're moving on to that. I will not be doing a commissioner in car till Friday of next week, and the reason I'm doing it on Friday is to get both these hand counts in, and also give you an update on what happened at the EAC regional meeting. And then I'm going to go back to doing these on Tuesdays. The commissioner cards will be on Tuesdays going until the general election, starting the very next week. And then I'm also hoping to get back to doing my weekly wonks to lead up into the general election, go over all of the races that have contests going to the general election. I've already done the county of Onondaga, and I've already done the city of Syracuse, but my first couple weekly wonks will not be on political subdivisions. It will be a wrap-up of the primary election, and giving you the data from that. Once we've certified next week, I'll have that data. So check in at dustinsarney.com. I'm really hoping to be able to get that going. No promises on the weekly wonks, just because these, everything that I do on these commissioner and cars or weekly wonks or going to the EAC or pledge or any of these other extracurricular activities are usually either on my own dime or paid for by non-county taxpayers, and usually on my own time as well. I've been kind of reevaluating how much time and what is effective to get the communication out there, and it's one of the reasons why I've started to focus in on Commissioner in the Car. I've the other podcasts I used to do, the Zoom with Zarni, the interview podcast, I've all but scrapped that. Maybe I'll go back to that in the future, but I feel like Commissioner in the Car is where my wheelhouse is, because that's about election news. It's not about politics. It's not about candidates. And, obviously it's about candidates because it's about election news, but it's to keep the public informed. The weekly wonk is also about that, but it takes a little bit more time to write, and I'm going to evaluate that over the next few months to see how much time I can devote to it. While I want to get to every town and every county ledge race that is happening, I don't know if I'll have all the time to do that. If I do it once a week, I definitely won't, so I'd have to double up on some weeks, and I don't know if I'll have the time to do a double up for that. But I do want to get back into it, because I do feel like that's something that people like to read, and at least the metrics have showed that people tune into that, and people tune into this, or a small amount, a modest amount of people turn into these things, and I'm grateful for those that are following along. And if you want to follow along, you can go to dustinsarney.com and subscribe. You can get an email notification every time there's a news article on local elections or content that I post. It'll go right on there, and you'll get a notification. And it's always something I do for free. I'm never going to charge, and it's always out of my own pocket. So that's a long-winded explanation. I was hoping to have kind of a hopeful podcast here, because I wanted to end on a tag about it being Independence Day. But the big beautiful bill, or the things that we've been calling it, which is definitely not the big beautiful bill, passed Congress today. And I'm devastated by this, because it is going to hurt people. This is nothing more than an extreme tax cut for the rich, and paid for out of social services to help poor and down and out families. And it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. And in some ways, America has been lucky through the first Trump presidency, and so far in the first 6 months of the last Trump presidency. A lot of the major things that Trump has tried to do, and that the MAGA agenda has tried to do to our country, to roll back protections, to roll back spending, to roll back, to give, basically transfer wealth to the wealthy from the poor, taking it out of needs for them, has been blocked either by the courts or by Congress, or sometimes a brave vote. It was John McCain's vote that kept the ACA. We didn't have those brave votes this time around. The Republicans were almost unanimous in their votes in both the House and the Senate to pass this bill. This is on them. There were no Democrat votes for this bill. In fact, the Democrats, and I know it's fun to shit on the Democrats. And look, I have my own problems with the national party, my own problems with the local party. That being said, I'm a Democrat, and that's where I'm at, because that's where I believe the future of the country needs to be, to help people that I care about. The Democrats did everything they could to stop this. They used every procedural motion they could use in the Senate. They used every rhetorical motion. They were one vote shy in the Senate. All of these senators that said they weren't going to vote for it on the Republican side, they all ended up doing it except for two. And one of them is Tom Tillis, who's retiring. The other one is Susie Collins. And even like Lisa Murkowski, who helped save the ACA many years ago, voted for it because she hoped the House would stop it, which is a ridiculous statement. And then all of the Republicans in Congress, including the Republican delegation from New York, voted for this bill. A bill that will throw 1 million people off of health care in New York State alone. We got to be angry about this. We got to be mad about this. And I get the sentiment of asking, why didn't Democrats stop this? And I am not one of those people that will say, oh, well, this is what you deserved. You voted for the Republicans, because nobody deserves what's about to happen, even the people who did vote for Trump. But many of the people crying out for help are people who voted for Democrats and don't understand that they just didn't have any of the power to stop this from happening. This is not on the Democrats. This is on the Republicans. This is on the Republicans in Congress, in the Senate, and the man in the White House. It can be reversed, but it will not be able to be reversed unless the Democrats take back the House, take back the Senate, and take back the White House. So we're going to have 3.5 years, at least, of the ramifications of this bill. Because there will be nothing procedurally that Democrats can do for the next 3.5 years to fix this bill. That's just the truth. And people are going to get hurt. And if it makes you feel better to blame Democrats, I just, fine. But that's not where we're at. That's not who's causing this. It is the MAGA agenda that has taken over the National Republican Party. And this is why elections matter. And I hope that more people will come out and participate in local elections, because, this year's councilman is next year's congressman. We see what party agendas are at this point, and you have to ask yourself which agenda aligns with you. And nothing's going to align perfectly, but are some of the squabbles that we have with the Democratic Party, with more progressive agendas that maybe we're comfortable with, is worth losing our health care, is worth losing your services, is worth tax cuts to the ultra wealthy? That's the question before you, before us. So maybe it's fitting that we go into Independence Day. Maybe it's fitting that we go into the July 4th holiday. Because in many ways, July 4th is an imperfect holiday built by imperfect men who, whether it was their own self-interest or their own false sense of egalitarian principles, since they were keeping women and keeping people of color from the ballot, but people got together and started something. They started democracy in America. It was actually on July 2nd was the vote. John Adams famously wrote that people would be celebrating July 2nd with fireworks and parades 2 days later. It took 2 days to sign that Declaration of Independence. So July 4th. They were not perfect people, but they got together and created something that, for the most part, has been good in the world and has gotten better over time. And we are in a slide back. We are in a reversal of our American ideals of freedom and of helping out those who need it, and helping out the poor and the immigrants and those that need it the most, while using fear as a bastion to pummel people into submission while allowing the rich to get wealthier and our economy to tank and rural hospitals to close and schools to be defunded and appropriated funds to help out our allies in Ukraine withheld illegally to allow Russia to overtake it. And this is a grim picture. There's no doubt about it. But I hope going into this July 4th holiday, we remember that when those men, those imperfect men, signed that document declaring our independence, they put something in motion that bettered the world. Even though they didn't know what they were doing at the moment, or maybe many of them did, but I don't think they could have seen, the greatness of America that would have come. And the greatness of America that could come. That's what I choose to believe. We are in a slide back. We've seen this before. The aftermath of the Civil War, the failing of Reconstruction, the Gilded Age, the Great Depression. But we bounce back from all of that. And I hope that we will find a way this holiday to bounce back from the pain that has been caused already and will be caused over the next 3.5 years. Be safe. Have a wonderful holiday weekend. And we got to get off the mat at some point. Bye-bye.